So joining us right now for some special insight is the former special counsel to President Clinton, who invoked executive privilege 14 times, Lanny Davis, who's counting, and former RNC chair Michael Steele. Together, you're different people, but yet together you're purple.
Together we're purple. That's right.
And before we talk about your project, which I'm very excited about.
Where they're coming together.
Right, where you're coming together. Don't give it away, Steve,
okay,
too much, okay? But I want to talk about Fast and Furious. First off, with the executive privilege being exerted, Lanny, you surprised?
No, I mean, George Bush, Ronald Reagan, probably George Washington has been fighting with Congress about what the executive has to give up when Congress wants to see advisory memorandum. It's an old principle of constitutional law. I do think that the administration waited too late to reach out to Chairman Issa, but they did reach out, and Issa said, I'm not going to deal. I think Holder was ready to sit down with them to work it out.
And you think that it was a mistake that they should wait so late, because when you were in the Clinton administration, you had an argument with the president's lawyers over, what are we doing here?
Sometimes you have to be politically realistic. If you exert important constitutional principle and you know it looks like a cover-up and the optics and the politics are against you, you fight the principle up to a point, and then you say, okay, we'll give them up because we're going to give them up anyway. In this case, it probably is an important principle at stake, but I think that Eric Holder is willing to negotiate, and for reasons I can't understand other than shock politics, Issa said no.
Michael, this is a lot of political capital to spend, and it really brings the president right into the center of a fight that he didn't necessarily have to be this closely associated with. Do you think that there's something big here to hide to make it worth it?
Well, I think that's the bottom line for a lot of folks. I mean, I think most folks around the country right now are kind of scratching their head going, okay, how long has this been going on? Because this has been a long investigation. This is not something that just started 6 months ago. So the reality for a lot of people is, where does this end? And I think that both Issa and Holder and now the president have an obligation to really get this off the front pages, because you're talking about the loss of life here. This is not a political tool or football to play around with. There's serious questions to be raised, and I think that all parties concerned at this point need to get in the room and get it done.
And, Michael, you know what's going to knock it off? Obamacare. The ruling could come down as early as today, and then Fast and Furious will go down at least for a while. Now, tell me about your project. You believe Republicans and Democrats have never been this far apart, and together you want to be the purple answer, right, Lanny?
Like Barney.
Yeah, I want to make clear, though, that this isn't kumbaya. I disagree with this guy on almost everything. Our issue differences are real. I'm a liberal. He's a conservative. What we are saying is that Democrats and Republicans are in a dysfunctional system where they're not trying to find solutions. So we came together as a company. We call ourselves Purple Nation Solutions, because we think people who come to Washington want bipartisan solutions. They don't want a food fight.
Look, the goal has got to be, at this stage, given the problems that we're having internationally, the problems that we're having here at home, just, you know, getting jobs, putting people back to work, there's got to be a general consensus about what this is going to be. How do we get there? And how do we begin to have that conversation? When you have something like Simpson Bowles that the president, you know, asked for and then ignores, or that you have, you know, folks in Congress who push back and say, well, we don't want to have that conversation. We're not even going to have the debate. We're not going to have the discussion. That's not what the American people need right now, particularly when they're trying to put their lives back together.
But how do you do that? I mean, everybody says we want both sides to come together. Well, all the fighting doesn't do anything.
You have two guys who decide, you know what, enough's enough.
So
you come together.
Tell me practically, who do you talk to?
We talk to everybody. Anybody who'll listen. Anybody out there who's really ready to move forward and to find how we solve these problems. Let's begin to put the pressure on the leadership. This is about elected leadership that's not doing the responsible thing.
I understand you want to see much less negativity in the run-up to the election with the campaigning. But how do you do that? I mean, Mitt Romney wants to point out the current president's record. Would that be considered negative?
No. In fact, that's exactly what we want Romney to do, and it's really up to you guys in the media to insist. Tell me your idea, Mr. Romney, for reducing the national debt without raising revenues. Tell me your idea, President Obama. How are we going to reduce the debt without cutting spending and entitlement reform? Force them to debate that. Tell the American people how are you going to solve jobs and the national debt. Don't tell me about Bain Capital, and don't tell me about how bad Romney was in Massachusetts. I want to know about your ideas for the future. That's what Bill Clinton, that's what Cory Booker, that's what Ed Rendell. A lot of Democrats are asking Barack Obama to challenge Romney on issues.
Michael, I guess my main thing I'm getting, though, is great idea, coming together, two credible, high-profile individuals leading this company. But how do you do it? How do you become a force rather than just a point of view?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit how I looked at my tenure at the RNC. RNC in that, when I became chairman, the party was fractured. We lost in '06, we lost in '08. And how do you go out and convince the base to be a part of this? You do it one citizen at a time, community at a time. You talk to businesses, you talk to political leadership, and you try to bring them to the point of view that people are ready for this. I mean, the response that we've gotten has been enormous. People are actually ready for this type of movement. So now we encourage those folks out there,
and that's what you're
making those decisions, to listen to what people want right now. This is not that difficult. I mean, you don't always have to take the negative position. What is so hard about saying, look, okay, you have your view, I have mine. Lanny is absolutely wrong on taxes. God bless him. He can't help himself.
I want to raise his taxes.
And I'm trying to help a brother out and keep his taxes low.
It's what they do now at Purple Nation Solutions, where I've got a feeling their business cards have purple ink.
They are.
What did I tell you?
You know the Vikings are going to sue you. I know that, right?
Thank you very much. All right,
Thanks, guys, for having me.